Hey, what's going on, guys? Amir Fazeli here from Adonis Athletics. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, I want to talk about something very important, something that I've been promising a few people out there that I'm going to be putting up because there's been a lot of demand for it. And if you are somebody who has been having any of the following issues, so if you've been having problems with your energy, if you've been having problems with your sleep, if you feel like you're very stressed out, very strung out, and you can't figure it out, don't know what's going on, and you want some kind of an answer, or at least to talk to somebody who's been through the same thing and how they got through it and how they fixed it, then this is probably the series for you. And yes, I said series because I'm gonna do this over a few parts. I can't do it all in one go because it's very big, a lot of things to cover. I don't want to miss the important stuff, which is very important. So in this first episode, I'm gonna talk about a little bit of my backstory of what I was experiencing, to see if maybe you guys can draw some similarities and be like, yep, that's what I was going through as well. And so that you guys can see that if this is something that you guys would benefit from. Now, going forward, before I actually start with the whole thing, very important thing is, if you're watching this and any of what I'm saying sounds familiar to you, I want you to leave a comment below, because other people are going to be watching this either, in an hour, in a day, in a week, or even a couple of years from now. And they're going to identify with this. And if you have something important to say, you may think it's not important, but it's actually there might be one person that could benefit from it. Put it down below. If you've been through the same sort of thing, if you're watching this, and certain things helped you, it might as well help me, right? You don't know. I could benefit from it as well, and so can other people. And so it's a good way to help each other, right? So let's get on with it. Rewind a couple of years. I own Adonis Athletics. I'm the founder of Adonis Athletics, and what we do is we're a strength and conditioning facility, and we take care of all types of athletes, non-athletes, people who just want to be just fucking awesome, right? So as the years went on and the business expanded, we started to get more and more physical locations. That, coupled with my personality type of wanting to do everything, wanting to be involved all the time, wanting to work, a bit of a workaholic, and wanting to just, get shit done and get it done in a timely fashion and get it done to a certain standard, my standard, right? A bit of a perfectionist in that regard. Over time, as expansion occurred, which is a great thing, over time as things grew, which is a great thing, I started to see that a couple of years ago, I was coming home from work and I would be really tired soon after getting home. Or throughout the day, I would find it really hard all of a sudden to start focusing on things. I would also find that I don't really have much patience for people, or don't really have much of an attention span, would zone out real quick. I would find that on some days when it was really bad, I would have to have a 20-minute nap in the middle of the day in order to actually function, right? So it was getting really bad. I was feeling tired all the time, and I was feeling sort of stressed out all the time. I was starting to feel low energy all the time, and it totally wasn't me. It wasn't me at all. I'm the type of person who, especially at night, I'm a night owl. I like to go out, I'll stay out many hours, right? I love to be out and about doing things. I don't like being inside, and I don't like, that's why I could never hold down like an office job. So I started to notice that my energy and enthusiasm for work, for going out, for people, I love mingling with people. I love talking to people and socializing, especially within the job that I have. I'm a coach, so by nature, it's required of me to be able to talk to a lot of people and do it consistently. It's what I love anyway. I don't consider it work. I'm socializing with people all the time. It's great. But I was finding that I was sort of changing, but my enthusiasm for it was changing. My energy for it was changing, and alarm bells started to go off because I am pretty good at noticing patterns within things, and I see if something's not right. I need to have a look at that thing a little bit more closely and pay attention to it. So for a while, it sort of continued, and I didn't know what the issue was. I thought that maybe I'm low in testosterone, because I know that's being low in testosterone, one of the side effects is that your energy levels go down, you kind of lose enthusiasm, etc. I thought it's a long shot. I could get it checked out, get my blood test done just to rule that out and rule anything else out for that matter. Got my blood test done, came back, my testosterone was almost at the maximal sort of limit that the lab tests for. The maximal, close to maximal physiological level. So for example, it ranged from like 10 to 32 or 31 or something like that off the top of my head for that particular lab. Mine was at like 27. So that wasn't the issue. And in other forms and factors in the test, there were no physiological issues that came about. So I didn't really know what the issue was. It was a little bit frustrating. Well, actually, it was very frustrating, as you can imagine, especially if you're somebody watching this who's been in the same position. You know what I mean. It's more so frustrating because, first of all, you know that it's not due, and nobody's really got an answer for you, right? And so I'd go through times where it'll be better, then it'll be worse, and I would notice certain patterns, but I could never really string them together. Like for example, I'd notice that if I go on a trip, if I go away, it would get better. It would sort of go away even, and upon returning, it would come back again. Upon returning from the trip and getting back to work again, it will come back again. I would notice that during periods where my training is a little bit more high stress, a lot of volume, it would sort of creep back again. And then it would go away again during sort of deload weeks or maybe more prolonged periods of not training. So anyway, I started to collect all these sort of patterns, but I just didn't know how they connected, what they meant. And so I luckily I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine, and he knew of a person who was a very knowledgeable psychologist, and he asked me to go and speak to him and get his advice and get his point of view on things. And this particular psychologist deals a lot with CEOs and athletes, so things related to performance, not so much mental illness and stuff like that, at least not for these purposes, right? And I certainly didn't think I had any mental issues or any mental illnesses, because I didn't feel particularly depressed, although some of the signs and symptoms maybe would feel like depression, but I didn't feel like I was depressed. I didn't feel like I was suffering from depression per se. It just felt like there was periods of better motivation and periods of lower motivation. I felt like it was something to do with something else, right? You get that hunch. Anyway, went and spoke to the psychologist, also spoke to a few other friends who I eventually, as I was talking to other people, found out they were going through the same thing as well, or had in the past, got their point of view on things as well. And thankfully, happy to say, since I've spoken to all these people, I am almost 100% back to where I was. I've got my energy back, I've got my life back. I mean, if you're watching this right now, if you've gone through it, you know what I mean when I say I've got my life back. When you are for so long a person that you just know you are not, and all of a sudden you sort of figure it out, you get the answer you wanted, it's really a good feeling. And I hope those of you watching this, going through it right now, through these videos that shares my experience, can also go through the same thing and get back to what you were, getting your energy back, feeling enthusiastic about things, being outgoing, like just having more energy and more just life about you, right? More everything good, everything positive, just good vibes, right? I just want to preface everything by saying none of this is medical advice. None of this is medical advice. This is all simply just my experience and what I went through, and me just passing it on to you guys. Hopefully I get some good karma from it, right? Just me sharing my experience, that's all. Because with all that being said, a lot of this, there can be a very fine line. Some of this could be just simple management of things, but other things, it can cross over into actual mental illness that needs to be addressed by a professional, okay? Thankfully, that is not my case. That wasn't the issue that I had at all, but some of the symptoms can easily overlap, okay? So this is not medical advice, this is just simply my experience, okay? Now, moving along with it, in order for us to continue with the videos and for me to get the point across well enough, I need to give you guys a good understanding of some basic stuff that's very, very, very important in order to understand the concepts that are to follow in future series. So firstly, it's sleep. Number one, the biggest thing is sleep. So a lot of times sleep is misunderstood by a lot of people, and I think it's underrated hugely. I think it's hugely underrated by a lot of people. I think we just think of sleep as a time to just rest, right? But we don't understand how much is actually going on whilst we sleep. And through this journey, I learned a lot about it, and I know that whatever I did learn, it doesn't even scratch the surface on how important sleep is, because I know for a fact that neuroscientists and sleep scientists out there who've dedicated their lives to sleep still have a lot of aspects about sleep, a lot of questions that have been unanswered about sleep. So for me to say I understand it and I know it and I get it would be simply insulting their intelligence. I just looked into it and I have a better understanding about sleep than I did before. Okay, and I think that it's very important that you guys also start to look into it and the importance of it and what it does and why you are missing out on so much when you abuse or misunderstand or don't harness the power of sleep the way you're supposed to, especially if you're an athlete or if you're somebody in a high position such as a CEO, an executive, and you need to get things done. During the day, from what I understand, the brain actually physically almost degenerates, breaks down at a small level. Kind of like when we train our muscles and then afterwards it regenerates and rebuilds and becomes bigger and stronger. The brain not only degenerates, it also accumulates waste products within itself. It is only during sleep that it has the time and the opportunity to regenerate itself, repair itself, get rid of waste products. And also what's very important is it takes the information that we gave it through the day, and we get thousands and thousands of bits of information given to us, given to the brain, whether we like it or not, through the day. It's the brain's job at night during sleep to go through and sort through all that information. It keeps the things that it needs and it discards the things that it does not need. It decides during sleep what is good to keep as a memory, and what is good to make as a learned skill and what is not, okay? This is part of the reason why if you, say for example, acquiring a new skill, for example, learning how to squat, or if you've just set a good PB at the gym or something like that, if your sleep is inadequate or the quality of it is not good, the adaptation from that training session is not going to be as good as if you got good quality sleep, excuse me. So sleep is very, very important. And what I learned was that the quality of the sleep is probably more important than the duration of the sleep. So that's one issue that I need you guys to keep in the back of your mind when we're moving forward with these series. The other thing is the importance or the role that the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system play. So typically we think of our nervous system as just this one thing, right? But it goes a little bit deeper than that. The nervous system, within the nervous system, we have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is you call it the department of the nervous system, or the mode of the nervous system that is in charge of triggering all the things that need to be triggered when we are in a fight or flight response, okay? When we need to run away from something dangerous, or defend ourselves, or anything of that sort, engage in competition, things like that. That is when the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, upregulated the most. It does things like increasing heart rate, supplying and releasing more adrenaline into the bloodstream, increasing your rate of breathing, all things like that, directing blood flow towards musculature that are going to need it, right? So it's priming you to be able to defend yourself or run away from a danger or anything of that sort. Basically, in essence, it's priming you to deal with a stress. This is very important, to deal with a stress. The parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system. It is responsible for triggering things that will begin to allow you to recover, okay? So this is why after training sessions, if you want to recover from that training session as quickly as possible and as best as possible, you need to do things that start to upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. So you want to start to engage things within the body, processes within the body that will start to move you away from a fight or flight response and towards things that will get you to recover again, rest and recover. And so that includes, lowering of the heart rate again, diverting muscle flow away from muscles again, blood flow away from muscles again, and into the gut, for example, for digestion. Understanding this is very important. Why? Because of this. Whenever you're in a stress mode, the sympathetic nervous system is upregulated. That means the parasympathetic nervous system is not upregulated. So it's one or the other sort of thing, right? When you engage in any kind of activity through the day, which is stressful to you, it doesn't have to be training. Anything that is stressful to you triggers and activates and upregulates the sympathetic nervous system. This is very important. This is part of the reason why you are feeling like you're low in energy all the time. This is part of the reason why your sleep quality is not good. Because we are going through the day not realizing that we are in a constant fight or flight mode. We are not doing anything to recover and rest our body and rest our mind and upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system. The thing is, the body responds to all stress the same. It doesn't differentiate between it. So being in an unfamiliar environment is stress. training is stress. Loading up with pre-workout before training further increases that stress. Now imagine if you have that pre-workout before a training session that you have at night, close to sleep, at say 6, 7 p.m., even 5 or 6 p.m., your sleep quality is going to be extremely bad. Bills that you get, if bills stress you out, is stress. If you're having issues, financial issues, that's stress. A fight that you get into with your partner is stress. All of this is stress, and all of us have a certain affinity, a certain finite capability to take on and deal with stress. And I started to realize that what was happening was that I was taking on too much for not just what I can handle. It was just too much. I was like by nature, I like to take on things and do it myself because I wanted to make sure that I do it right, it gets done right. And so obviously as the business was undergoing expansion and getting bigger and bigger, which was excellent, I had to take on more and more work, more and more roles. That increases my stress. That coupled with the fact that I'm training and my training is lots of volume, lots of sets, lots of reps, that's further stress. And add that to another thing and another thing and another thing, and there's only so much that my body and your body can handle before it becomes overloaded. Going back to sleep, I was explaining this very simply and very succinctly, and it made sense. So as I was saying, the brain has a certain amount of capability of dealing with things. When you go to sleep, its job is to sort through all the information that it got through the day and keep the things that was important and get rid of the things that were not important. But the thing is, you're now stacking up all this paperwork for the brain to deal with at night when you sleep. You only sleep for a certain number of hours, and so it can only sort through a certain number of files by the time you wake up. And so there's this backlog of unsorted files when you wake up again. But the brain needs to deal with these unsorted files one way or another. However, in your new day, now you've just woken up, you're going through the same number, you're stacking up the same amount of paperwork again, maybe more, because you're going through the same lifestyle, the same stresses, the same everything. Now the brain at that night's sleep has to deal with this new bunch of information and the backlog from the night before. And so it obviously can't get through that as well. And so it just keeps building and building and building, and you just get this constant state of fatigue. You get this constant state of being overstressed and fatigued. And so energy is down because through your sleep, you simply did not have the chance to go through everything and sort through everything, regenerate itself, regenerate your body, and make you feel fresh when you wake up in the morning again, okay? So that's very important. I hope that makes sense for everybody, because this is a very, very important basis for the rest of this series. So in a nutshell, our goal, our aim is to improve the quality of sleep, improve what we're giving our bodies in terms of fuel and nutrition, and also be able to upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system, things that relax us as much as possible. In future episodes, I'm going to talk about how I did that based on the advice that I was given and things that I just sort of figured out as I went along, and basically how I got my life back and started to regain my energy and my focus again. And we'll take it step by step so that I don't miss any bits of information or any detail. I hope that helps out, guys. Like I said, leave any comments below. If there's something that you want me to cover in particular in future episodes, in this series as I go along, put it in the comments below. And if I dealt with it, if I have experience with it, then I'll talk about it. If I don't, I'll just say I didn't deal with that, I didn't have experience in regards to that point, and I won't talk about it. Once again, guys, this is not medical information or medical advice. This is just simply a diary of what happened with me and how I dealt with it, and hopefully it can help you guys out. Until the next episode, this is Amir Fazeli from Adonis Athletics. Stick around.